Hey, good morning, Eduardo. This is
Good morning, Sanjay.
episode next episode of Water Lobby podcast, and I'm glad to see you again and to talk about the water issues and just the issues that the science and country will be facing in the next few years, and to understand what is happening because there is a lot of anxiety right now. With that, do you have any opening remarks? What is going on in your life? Any updates in general?
Yeah, I guess let's enter the conversation again. We're in Central Texas. It's February 8th, 2025. And in the news, there's been a lot of talk about funding goals of the new political administration. And that is what I wanted to speak on today. What's something that interests you? Why do you say that is causing a lot of anxiety or that this is causing anxiety?
Yeah, well, my coworkers, I feel like there are two sides to it. First side is where we have people who are updated with everything that's happening, and the second side is that who really are not fine-tuned. And I think the people that are, and the third one is who are trying to learn, and then they are talking about, hey, why is everybody else so calm? And just by looking at other people being chill right now and not really worrying about anything, of course. So the context here is the new administration that entered US and all the changes that are happening to the agencies, and it's happening fast, and there is not too much time to digest before the next change comes. So I think that's the part where some people are anxious more than others.
And thank you for entertaining that question because when I think about anxiety, I think about something that you don't, it's unpredictable is happening and it's just so complicated that it's hard to make sense. It's hard to make a decision. I feel like emotionally overwhelmed. Some people lean into that ambiguity. Some people just focus on other more important matters than the ambiguity. And then other people, I guess your coworkers, don't even know what the heck is going on in America. Come on.
Yeah, yeah. So
Does that what's happening over there?
So I think well, I'm gonna rephrase it. So the way it's happening is that there is hierarchy to everything in an organization. So I think people are expecting that the leaders who are at the top of the organization, they come up with answers. They tell them, hey, what our company is thinking about the new changes, what market projections are changing for us. Work, are we going to expect less work? Is my job going to be safe? So those are high level questions that are being asked around.
Well, I would say, how would you respond to that question? Is my job safe? As civil engineers, how's our job market looking?
I I think our job market is and has always been one of the more stable ones, mainly because we are underpaid, so it's easy to hire us in large numbers. And yeah, the construction industry keeps going on.
I think so. I feel pretty buffered from the economic impacts because, like you said, we're middle income earners and middle income
Yeah.
laborers in American society. A few of us earn a lot of money, but they have to work it. This
Yeah.
is hard work that I feel that we do. And so I do feel like, man, I'm so glad have that education.
And I think the biggest thing is that at this, whenever there are uncertain times or fast moving, even if it's not uncertain, we expect a response from our leaders, Texas water leaders. Hey, give us answers. Tell us what is the strategic plan. Did you make any changes to it? What's your CIP looking like? Are you expecting any grant funds to like not be there? And I feel like the leaders are probably just as lost as the rest of us. And that again speaks to what actually is leadership, right?
I love where you're taking this. So I just want to keep asking you questions. Feel free to pick me, but I'm going to pick
Yeah.
you on you. What do you think is a leadership response to this news?
I feel like ideally I would expect someone who's leading at a $500,000 or more salary package, which a lot of leaders do make. They should like first try to engage with the current administration at some level, maybe try to understand, hey, what are some things that you're going to do to all these, verticals? For example, transportation, right? What are you going to do with aviation? What are you going to do with water? What are you going to do with wastewater? What are your plans for the environment, right? So our leaders need to first ask those questions and then advocate for us, right? If they feel like, hey, I'm getting a response that says we're going to lower the funding for environment everywhere, then the leaders at that point, I think they need to step up, just take a risk. Don't take a seat back where you're going to just let, whatever, whoever is the current administration at a different time and just run over the entire industry. Rather, like, come and step up and be like, hey, my constituents, which in this constituent meaning the people who work for that particular leader, they are asking me these questions, and I want you to not reduce funding for this program because this is very, very important for all of us. And just, I'm not seeing that right now where leaders stepping up and saying, hey, why is this particular science important? And it's all of people who are, at the lower level, us who are, just workers in a beehive. We are asking these questions, but I'm not hearing it from leaders. What do you think? Are you hearing anything from leaders of any agency, any private company, or any nonprofit who are stepping it up and lobbying for us? Exactly that, the lobby part.
Yes, I think what I have seen is a lot of movement in my work for, I would say, priming junior engineers for worse conditions. That's what I have seen. I have seen a lot of return to office mandates.
Yeah.
I have seen double downing of transportation and transit oriented projects. I have seen increased investment. And this is special. We're talking about Austin,
Yeah.
which is a different type of town than surrounding cities. I would compare some parts of Houston's civil engineering culture to Austin civil engineering culture, but I wouldn't compare Dallas or San Antonio. San Antonio is becoming more progressive and more effective in as a working body in Central Texas. And so what I have seen is that an increased focus on transportation across the state, increased focus. I will highlight Austin, especially in housing market investment, and also particular, actually very interesting around the water sector, like the water lobby discipline. I have seen increased regulation on our asset management systems. I don't know what type of projects you work on, Sanjay,
Yeah.
but I work on a lot of information systems, data systems, and engineering techniques and scoping of small and large projects, like multi-million dollar projects. And what I have seen is an increased regulation due to increased technological precision. I'm talking specifically about 2D modeling
Yeah.
and 3D computer aided design techniques that in the past 10 years are thanks to GPU power and the lowering costs of computation, we can create incredible simulations, incredible renderings of architectural goals. But that's not going towards water. It's going towards transportation. It's going towards mass structural development, just development in general. I would, as a ecologist, sort of adjacent, to protect and discuss the ecological impacts of this increased focus on cars. I have seen in the news that the president is aiming, and this is just communications, not really regulatory policy, but aiming to open up national protected lands for even development in like war-torn countries like Palestine,
Yeah.
that I have seen that they want to develop in some other continent,
And
in the middle of some other continent. That is the direction I see our discipline in going, is towards development and transportation projects and steering away from water conservation, from solar power storage, for instance, which to me are maybe not water related, but they're still within the realm of conserving environmental resources like forests, like tar sands that don't need to, may or may not need to, but we can still aim towards removing our reliance or over reliance on fossil fuels. Because it's just it's a mucky business, I'll say. What do you think about that? My observations is that our practice, our jobs are safe,
yeah.
but the direction of our work is being steered more towards these energy intensive jobs and towards housing in Austin, but not, and resources are being relocated from environmental issues. What is your response to that?
Yeah, I think I completely agree with the statement where if I was working in something environmental related, I would be right now a little bit skeptical of the administration and what impact they're going to have on the environment. Because you mentioned the Gaza Strip, that was one of the biggest shockers, not because of the statement itself, but how normally it was spoken, where I heard in the news that there was no pre-planning on that particular statement to be made, or no staffers actually knew about that was going to be said, and that just speaks about what is normal now, where you don't really have to run things by through your bureaucrats and you can just come and say it, where and these kind of statements impact lives of actual people, right? They're going to be impacted one way or not, even if this plan doesn't go through. But the anxiety it creates amongst which the coming back to what anxiety is, where uncertainty of, hey, whether I will be able to live on this piece of land, which I've been living on for 5 generations or so. And that anxiety just about the actual lives of people. Hey, do I have to change the school of my child now? Or do I have to find a job elsewhere in a different country just because I can't live here anymore? Um, that I think is the uncertainty part is going to be more damaging, I think, than the final act itself on whether either way, whether wherever it goes from here. But I think it's going to be an environmentalism again, coming back to that, as we're seeing EPA within the first 2 weeks of the administration, I heard about 1,000 people from EPA being let go. And same is happening in NOAA, which is one of our most, I would say, premier agencies in terms of the value it creates for science and for oceans. And because even though the name kind of has ocean in it, it kind of does a lot of work for the entire continent and the world, where it predicts the climate patterns, helps determine what the rainfall intensities are and will be. And asking an agency like that to cut their staff by 50% and cut the staff by 50% and reduce the funding by 30%, that I think is going to create long-term impacts and create this void of this 4 years where suddenly we had all these advancements being made, and then we might see just like this drop in amount of publications and amount of just that maybe data could be just zero for a while. And as we know in water cycle, I just kind of realized that when I was at A&M, one of the big things that we were always needing was the data and historical data going back 30 years, 50 years, 100 years. And in water, there's always that scarcity of we never have enough data because we need so many gauges on streams. We need so many gauges on for the rain, and we need so many sensors. We don't have enough. We've always asked for more. And now I think there might be just this drop on the data availability that I think which might affect our climate projections or our just weather product projections or our flood projections, because if you analyze long enough time period, and you need very high level accurate data to actually make projections, and if you just miss 4 years in the middle and you try to then extrapolate or interpolate, it's going to just be damaging for a lot of PhD students.
I agree with you. There's a lot of scientific principles that we're not sticking to, and some people in power are not practicing scientific thought or method. And for somebody like me that wonders, do I even understand the world? Is the world more real than I am, or am I more real than the world? Taking it all the way back to the basics of psychology, I think, oh, their truth is not my truth. So am I wrong? Or are they wrong? How do we figure that out? Because I think so many people are wrong about things that I'm right about. And then when I have this cognitive dissonance of there's something wrong, and no one's asking me if they could be wrong, or how right are they? How precise are they? How accurate are they being? And this is a part where I get weirded out because you're an engineer and I'm an engineer and we're intellectuals, then we are expected to know more. But then when we're not expected to know more, then the validity of our thinking is questioned. What's the response to that? I think what do you remember there was a hurricane pathway in during Trump's first administration. I forget the name of it. And we had this cone of potential land zones. And then the president went up on the stage and with a Sharpie, he was like, but it could hit over here. And I was like, no, it can't because what it says. That's not what NOAA says. And that gives me so much anxiety. Does that give you anxiety?
I think it also became a meme template for a while, so remember it. And I don't exactly remember the whole video, but I think you mentioned that that was one of the work that NOAA published, and just to see that there we
The
are.
National Weather Service and NOAA, it's the same technology.
And I wanted to touch back on what you said about reality and your reality versus what the other reality is. And I think that in fundamental aspects is what is being challenged here is what is reality and what is perception of reality, and how can we use perception of reality to change reality, not just for now but for decades to come, right? So
What a beautiful question. I'm sorry, I just have to sit on that question a little bit. How do we connect the perception of reality to reality?
at the core of everything, I think that is what is kind of happening, where you if you can change the perception of reality enough by understaffing a certain agency like NOAA, where a 30% reduction in anything would impact at least 10% reduction in data and quality of data, right? We know how much QA/QC work is important also, and if you just remove if by chance if it's a random pick or a draw and all the QA/QC people get laid off, what is the reality then? Is it going so that? And then one other thing I was thinking in this regard was how artificial intelligence is going to be impacting weather projections, because there have been news over the last few years where they've created AI models that have predicted certain event at a better or than our National Weather Service models, and is something that I think about. Hey, is the plan to really reduce the human touch from the models and let AI kind of do all the weather predictions going forward? And if that is the plan, then there's a whole different conversation that our industry or we people who consider themselves working with weather data or need to have, how confident they feel about, even if you're a news anchor and you go up every day and tell what the weather is based on the National Weather Service model, how confident do you feel like maybe in the next 10 years or maybe in the next 2 years you will be going on stage and as a meteorologist you'll be just giving the results that an AI model is telling you. So that's a new reality that we might be seeing sooner than later, right?
Yeah, I love your question. And as you were talking about it, I was trying to listen, but I was just so engaged with the answer. But I think you hit on the answer separately when you were talking about AI and over-reliance, perhaps, on tools that we may or may not understand. I think I want to answer the question, how do we connect reality to our perception of reality? And I think I want to propose that you don't survive that. I think connecting perception to the reality, the person going through that process or through that understanding loses their perception of reality, and then they create a new perception of reality. So I think that the perception of reality is more permanent than the idea of reality because it's an emergent phenomenon. So reality is just there doing its thing. But then we as people, we perceive the reality. And so we're always constructing the
Yeah.
perception. And so once you destroy the perception and you get to reality, you just create a new perception. And so to answer, and then I'm going to apply that to the question of AI. We as engineers, and I'm just going to go there, I propose that we as engineers, we create tools for the members of our community. We are not the value object. The valuable object is the tool and the knowledge of how to use the tool. And AI is that tool, or AI is a tool that the people who created have to teach us how to use it in a way that is good for us, right? It's like medicine. You need a doctor for the moment to do a surgery on you. But there will come a time where there will become a doctor that invents an AI medicine that some people are going to use, over the counter drugs or a prescription drug. Then they teach you how to use it. And so I think AI is a magnificent tool by a magnificent creator. And that creator knows that his tool is more valuable than they are. And so I want to posit that as how we think about AI is that it's a tool that I don't know how to use it. I'm scared of it,
Yeah.
frankly. I'm scared of a gun. But that's kind of how I think about AI and how it affects our community greatly. But I want somebody that's a valid and respected leader to be like, is AI good? Is AI bad? Somebody who can validate and show me ethical use of that tool. I don't know. What's your experience
Yeah.
with AI in this world?
So what I wanted to bring up was so how our industry has changed over the years. When back in the day we had hand calculations where we would measure every single parameter and then make a calculation. Then came Microsoft Excel and everything, especially advanced hydrology. You could do it on Excel spreadsheet. You can do rainfall intensities, and you to a certain degree know what parameters you're using, what the output would be, and you can judge. But going forward, so you can already see the trend. The reliance on the actual calculations is reducing over many decades in civil engineering or water resources. And if the trend continues at this pace, and we get AI models that are predicting weather and predicting flood, what I'm concerned is that our industry as an aggregate does not have the capacity to challenge it at all, to update it, or to even do any calculations at all. We will be just reduced to a user interface where we are just making a dashboard that shows the data that was published through an AI model. And why I'm saying that, because I just had this thought yesterday about the wage gaps between AI engineer or right. Civil engineer, we are consultants, we make money based on client. In short, we have a ceiling to hit. We can only make a third of what the client pays. So that's going to be always less than what an AI engineer, let's say at a company like OpenAI, they pay on an average of $1 million to entry level staff. They pay who is good at AI. They pay up to $10 million to a highly skilled, and even more if you're a early member. And there is no way that any of our can afford a person who expects $1 million in a year. So what does that mean? It means that we will never have a highly skilled person in AI advocating for us, teaching us what the model is doing. At best, what we're going to have is people who stand the top layer, which is the where inference, so where you're just like asking them a question and you get the answer. So in I think best what we're going to get is a bunch of people who make six-figure salaries, $100,000 range, and they are just you know where they're asking AI a question and then they're just telling the public that answer, and that is a very scary situation to be in, where what is kind of just to a teleprompter. I think that's an extreme case. I don't. I may not happen, but if it happens, then I think the value that our industry provides will be, especially the water one thing that I'll be to use.
Well, it's a lot to take in what you said, and I think it's very astute to observe the objectification that happens when somebody can get the same or a comparable product for a fraction of the price,
Yeah.
right? And I think about the value of the work that we do seems graphic in nature,
Yeah.
or like and I will try to redefine the work that AI can do in the civil engineering space, because one thing that attracts me, and I know we have a short time, one thing that attracts me to this particular discipline or work or material or element of water is how difficult the computations are. When we do work, we are using physical formulas
But
that
it,
are tied to materials
okay.
and AI. What were you going to say?
Yeah, I was sorry for interrupting, but I think that's again going back to perception of reality, where we've been taught that we have to use a physical model, which like a HECRAS, takes. Even we don't know what happens inside HECRAS to a greater degree. Like in advanced, you only learn like the basics of it. And if the perception of reality changes, that hey, the physical models are no longer necessary as deemed by the truth, and going forward, our true God is AI, and we need just to use AI models going forward. And the AI models are better than physical models. And if that perception becomes reality, then what think what the sign that you were making. Sorry for interrupting.
Yeah, that's what I think you have a very keen observation, but it has been observed before. It's called being postmodern or being post-truth. I love what you said, being the ministry of truth,
Yeah.
because we democratize what is truth. And I want to share, because it's a change of perspective, where you get your truth from. So, do you get your truth from yourself, or do you get your truth from the outside? And if you get it from the outside, how do you get it? Because a lot of people have an inner truth that is good enough. And some people have an inner truth that doesn't work out at all, and they end up in prison. And I think that is the value of our discipline, is that we're more truthful and we're more transparent and we're more historical and we're more traditional. And we are not predictive by rote practice. We are predictable by critique and by the destruction of false reality. And so part of our work comes with analyzing what could happen, but then there's a part of it that says, and the scientific part that says that's not going to happen. And so you tell me if AI is good at telling you, oh, that's not going to happen, or if it's precise and accurate when it says, oh, that's going to happen. Because, yeah, I know AI makes pretty pictures fast, but tell me they're precise and how. Because there is a methodology to precision. There is a methodology to error counting, and there is a methodology to mass and mass formula and weight and stress and strain. These are very real, predictable metrics, and you can put AI to the test and it ain't gonna do it.
Yep. And
That's kind of my is not that good.
yeah, I think it's a very beautiful way to end this episode where, we're the audience with a lot of questions, right?
Well, you have some amazing questions. It's like a breath of fresh air the way you think. So thank you.
I think, and we'll come back, I think, monthly to publish this episode, or maybe
Mm.
bi-weekly if we get more comments on the videos.
Monthly.
Thanks, Edward. It was great talking to you once again.